Oh my God. Sorry. Well done, Fliptronic. You haven't hit that mark in a long time. That was terrific. Welcome, friends. My name is Manu. It's Mystery Pinball Theater 3000. As you can tell, I've survived the COVID. I shouldn't have said COVID on YouTube. For some reason, you can't say COVID on YouTube. I don't know why. I've survived the thing. We got a raid coming in. Game Club Center with 32 people. 32 people who probably want to know the answers to a lot of these questions about Scorbit integration. So without further ado, I have a couple of really cool dudes who helped pioneer all this stuff, especially with virtual pinball. Hello, everyone. I'm going to bring them in now. We have from Scorbit, we have Jay Adelson, one of the founders. There you go.
Greetings, my pinball friend.
That reminds me to do something. I'm going to do something in just 1 minute. Jay Adelson of Scorbit, one of the co-founders of Scorbit. And next to Jay, we have the talented Daphishbowl of the Pingredibles.
Yo. How's it going?
I'm going to do a couple of things here. First, I'm going to... I'll keep the volume of everyone's sounds coming in. It's fine. But I will do this. I will put my glasses on. That's the Fishbowl coming into the chat.
Of course it is.
Yeah. Wow, friends. All right, so there's Paladin. So Jay and the Fishbowl, let me just, while these sounds are happening and all this other neat stuff that I didn't disable before the stream. By the way, Paladin, really good score. Really good score. So I'm going to mention just real quick a couple of things. If you're new here, I love you, everyone.
It's funny. It's funny. It's just, it's a very musical kind of gathering. Yeah.
Thank you for the hype train. I saw Hawkeyes. Yeah. I saw Hawkeyes show up, and I saw Flipstream. So to recap, till this point, there is an app that exists for physical pinball machines. It is called Scorbit. It was created many years ago and executed maybe a couple of years ago.
Depends on who you ask and what day it is.
Yeah, pretty much. But it allows you to put your pinball machine on the internet, so to speak. So there, for example, there's a Tales of the Arabian Nights downstairs in my murder garage that actually belongs to one of these guys, and it's not the Fishbowl. There's a Tales of the Arabian Nights in my garage that has what's called a Scorbitron in it, and it is a device that allows to put it simply, allows the pinball machine to be connected to the internet and share scores and achievements and challenges and stuff like that. It brings an old machine like that into the current day, where the fun of leaderboards and all that other stuff. And if you're here on a Tuesday, generally speaking, you know about virtual pinball. We enjoy it. We play it. We play it with visual pinball. We play it with future pinball. We play it with Pinball FX and Zachariah. And so I'm part of a few guys who got together and call themselves the Pingredibles. And Daphishbowl is the leader of that group. Amazing programmer. And so when we do these tribute tables, and Daphishbowl said, "Hey, why don't we attempt integration of Scorbit into Visual Pinball?" And so that's where we are now. We rolled out Guardians of the Galaxy tribute table, right? 100% code that Daphishbowl wrote, 25,000 lines of code, and rolled out the integration of Scorbit because Scorbit has APIs and stuff that you can use to put in. Consider this like a homebrew. Like if someone came up with a homebrew machine and they wanted Scorbit integration, well, you can do that. So we did that with Visual Pinball. There are a lot of people are a little confused about how it works, and I don't blame you. It's new. It's very new. So I got these guys to help you out with questions.
Absolutely.
So
can I
I'll hand it over to you
maybe
guys. Yeah.
maybe since I think anyone watching this stream who has played virtual pinball in one form or another probably knows a lot about that world, because you kind of get deep into it, right? And then you get used to whether it's emulated or original, like the Fishbowl's incredible work. I'm still kind of blown away by all these tributes. One of the things about the physical pinball machines is that we had to come up with a platform that could accommodate really any kind of pinball machine, right? And so the way we structured it for the physical world, when you kind of like push it into the virtual world, might seem a little strange out of context, And so one of the things I should probably explain is that in the Scorbit world, for every pinball machine that has ever been created, there is an entry in our database for that machine. So there is an entry for, Batman LE, Super LE, and Premium, right? It's like they're different entries. Or sometimes if it's they're sometimes grouped together, but you have this list of pinball machines. And then anytime a person owns one and adds it to Scorbit, that is a single instance of that title. So for every title, I might have 10,000 machines that are all of that title. And that needed to happen because we needed to be able to say, well, this is Manu's machine and this is Daphishbowl's machine, and they're two separate machines. So they have their own leaderboards, but they share the same title. So there's a global leaderboard that's common. And that existed before we got into this virtual universe. And so then, you start to ask the questions like, well, what happens when you have a homebrew pin or you have a homebrew virtual pin, and, who's the master list manager and how does that work? We all know it's Andreas, but we won't go any farther than that. But there is a sort of a method to the madness of why it was the way it was. And then you guys come to me and say, one guy can have 1,000 pinball machines in a single box. And I'm like, okay, that's not complicated at all. But we did it. You did it, which is amazing. And I think the magic, and one of the great things about it is we said, we want you to behave exactly like a physical machine.
Security breach.
And in fact, it's better. It's better than a physical machine. I'm just saying it. It is, because you could do more integration and cool stuff with it that you can't do with a physical machine. Which is
I see what you're saying. Yeah, your level of flexibility with code on top of code is easier than code on top of like physical parts and stuff like that.
Yes, I can say that again. It is better. Okay, Game Club Central. It is better.
Thank you for the raid. So
Yeah.
so
That's
so I
the context, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it's terrific to put it in that context because the fact that you can have 500 to 1,000 virtual tables in one cab, it's kind of the point, right? Kind of the point of virtual play. Remember what we came from, kids. We came from sitting at a desktop using shift keys exclusively, and just flipping around with some kind of fun, thing with flippers and stuff like that. To someone said, "Hey, let's make this into a physical cab," and now we're here today, and you can put hundreds of them in there. So I think setting the groundwork for that, Jay, is actually a really good start. Let's take a look at. Thank you, Hawkeyes.
Well, so it actually achievement unlocked. So Scorbit.
That's
already
Nailbuster, by
had-
the way, Jay.
What's that?
This is Nailbuster here.
Of course it is. And welcome, Nailbuster, because we're gonna open this conversation.
Ken Swift.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. You were saying.
I was just my last bit before I throw the ball to Daphishbowl is only to say that we obviously have achievements, and people have talked about, anyone who's played a Jersey Jack game that's connected to Scorbit knows that as you're playing the game, an achievement can be unlocked, and there's a master list of achievements that has to be created by the pinball designer. And, in some cases, that's a manufacturer coming to us, right? But if you have a virtual pin, particularly a homebrew pin, that's going to end up being you who's going to come up with those achievements. I mean, there'll be one master list of achievements for every virtual game that goes on Scorbit, but someone's going to have to do the work.
Yeah.
Of coming up with all those cool ideas. I'm looking at
So
you.
that's actually for the Pingredibles. That's actually me right now. So it just stands to reason, right? The first table to come out with Scorbit integration, being this Guardians of the Galaxy tribute table, will probably be the pioneer in putting the achievements in. So I'm already currently working that. Jay is helping me out with that whole thing, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But it's coming down the pipe. I do want to say that I did have. Hey, Gusty. I do want to say that I did try to have the next table that has Scorbit support up and running for you guys right now. I couldn't get it to work. My fault. Daphishbowl is right here trying to help me. My fault. I had COVID, so give me a break, okay? But the games are coming out quickly now because of the work that Daphishbowl has done. Let's send it over to Daphishbowl. Are you seeing anything in chat that you want to address, Daphishbowl, or anything you want to mention about?
I mean, just the main things, like I think I kind of saw where people were saying, hey, kind of how does this work? How do we add this to different tables, I guess, and standardizing the implementation of that. So, I mean, part of that's a work in progress. I mean, for Guardians, I built a class, right? This thing, anybody can grab this class and add it to their homebrews or their originals, where it's all VB code, right? And so Blood Machines, working on that with those guys and helping them get that integrated. And that's the one, they're doing, I mean, they don't have pup where we have pup. And so they've made some good, workarounds there that are phenomenal. So, I mean, that's, and it's looking like it'll come pretty quick. And of course, Maiden is the other one, we'll get that dropped in there and go back and probably add. But so there's a basic class for that for originals. But the next avenue we have to get is something that has a basic interface for ROM based. Right. And that's the one Jay's been working, with, a couple people in the community to try and get that established. And there's a little bit of work there to do it the right way. But once it gets done, I mean, it will be pretty slick and just a seamless, probably just another library, kind of like we do with
Exactly.
Freezy, and drop it in, and there you go. And now you have Scorbit integration into the ROM base.
Yeah, and I
And then,
think that if we do it right, when we do it right, because I know that Freezy and all these guys are brilliant, and the work that we're going to get done is going to be beautiful. What I really like about it, though, is that I think we can take it a level higher than the physical world games. And the reason I say that is because you just have tighter control over things like, for example, on a Jersey Jack game, you've got this beautiful high definition screen in the back glass. And when you're playing the game, a QR code pops up when the ball's in the shooter lane that you can scan with the app and then claim that slot. Well, there's a lot we can do when you've got a PC in there and a display that you can change the display. And we're coming up with all sorts of crazy ideas, in terms of how to scan, and if you have a real DMD, how we can really make it seamless and simple. But the important thing is that doing it in a way that, like you did the Fishbowl with Guardians, where you created a class, like we really want to make this so that you can go back in time to any of the ROM games that have already existed and very, very simply add them to Scorbit. And the nice thing about the DMD games in particular is that we've done all the work already. We already have all the code.
yeah.
Interprets the frames and changes it all and so forth. And our new DMD achievements, which are going to be rolled out soon for regular physical DMD games, we'll make sure are working also for the ROM-based DMD games. And so we have to really, I can't wait to see how it all comes through.
Yeah, it's good. Phenomenal.
It'll be really fun. In particular, we've been using VPX for ages because, let's say, for example, there was someone who decided they wanted to get a Rocky and Bullwinkle physical machine. Not that I know anyone who would do that.
Who would be crazy enough to do that?
Let's say somebody wanted to do that, and let's just say there's a small number of people who have Rocky and Bullwinkle pinball machines. Well, we would have to get access to one in order to record all the modes, know exactly how to integrate it with Scorbit. And sometimes that's a little challenging. And when you do find them, they're not always working so well, So we use virtual pinball in order to simulate the games so that we can then create some of the outputs to generate things and test our logic. And so that means that I've been spending an absurd amount of time over the last 7 years of Scorbit's history in virtual pinball, wishing I had a full-size cabinet to play them on. But to some extent, it's like I have 45. I remember, Manu, didn't we have one situation where you were doing something and I had to get it working while I was on an airplane flying someplace?
Yeah, I mean, I could a certain big time pinball streamer was streaming Judge Dredd the next
that's
day.
Right. That's right. That's what
They were
it was.
gonna a certain big time pinball streamer was gonna stream Judge Dredd, and I let you know. So you were on an airplane with Pin Mame. Let me just address real quick. So there's go ahead.
There's a question. Why do Scorbit probes not work with Fathom? And also, when will I get DMD achievements? I swear that's kind of I feel like I'm being heckled by Mutterfutter, and I feel that because he knows the answer to these questions. And he's asking them anyway. I don't know. Should we stay on VPins, or you want me to answer that question?
I mean, I would like you to answer whatever questions you can feel, because maybe Motherfucker knows, but maybe Motherfucker knows that other people don't know.
So DMD Achievements is coming. It's a free upgrade that will be rolled into all of the Scorbitrons. Anybody with a DMD Scorbitron, it will arrive. I don't know the exact timing of it yet because we still have a lot more testing to do. But basically, it hijacks the DMD screen and rolls out an achievement badge like on the screen when you unlock things. And just like today, if you have Scorbit, it'll say Player 1 J. You know, when you tap into the Scorbit platform. But what Mutterfutter is asking about is we work on old games. Like if you see this behind me, there's the best of all early Bally games, Future Spa, which I know you all love very much. And we work on those old games too. And the way we do it is we're obviously not reading DMD frames. We're reading display data, and we intercept the display bus and we pull those digits out and interpret them. And it works on Fathom. It has worked on Fathom for, I think, almost 4 years, perfectly without issue. And for some reason on Mutterfutter's Fathom, it doesn't. And the truth be told is that from our perspective, that means Scorbit is broken, because we had to design something that could work on anybody's weird, modded, strange, or bizarre combo of machines. It could be that we didn't notice it was broken, or maybe Mutterfutter's so good at playing Fathom that he's triggered something. I don't know. By the way, I'm waiting for bated breath for a Scorbitron hardware that works with Williams firepower. So all those 80s pins, all those 80s solid state pins, we will support in time. And we actually have designs for our hardware that's already been designed to work with those older pins, that we just haven't had time to manufacture. And there was this pandemic that happened and stuff, but it's all coming. And so whatever physical game you have, we will be able to work. But wouldn't it be great, segue, for us to work on the Fathom that undoubtedly exists for some time in the VPN world? And Scorbit hiring. Scorbit is always willing to take volunteer developer if you want an internship.
Yeah.
Unpaid interns.
At a fantastic company with a great culture.
I think I'm a volunteer. I think Daphishbowl is a volunteer.
I think he's volunteered already. He's done so much.
Let me grab a couple of highlighted chats that I need to answer. Vinny Blank says, MPT2K, I remember a stream you did way back when where you were creating / naming of achievements for Junkyard. Did that ever make it way into Scorbit? I just called up that spreadsheet today. And so Jay and I had a conversation. So that's going to go over with the Guardian stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, it's kind of still in development. I still have it, and I'm going to roll that over when I hand Jay. I think there was about 29 achievements for Junkyard that I had. And since we had a conversation, I know exactly what I need to do to make those usable in Scorbit.
And by the way, it wasn't a drunk Pinside post a few months ago about farming out programming. Don't worry about that. That's true. Like there is no such thing as a bad post about ways that people think about integrating Scorbit and issues with the interface, because here's the first thing everyone's got to know. We are dissatisfied with our app at Scorbit. We see huge areas of improvement in the user interface. I mean, you guys in the virtual world make 1,000 times better graphic implementations than we've been able to do with Photoshop on a Thursday. So please, keep it coming. I mean, so one of the things that's happened also with the virtual pin stuff is that we we started looking at this and saying, okay, well, what is going to be the smoothest way if you've already got a virtual pin? What's the smoothest way to get these things online so that you're not like having to go through a laborious process for every table? And we're working, that's part of our thought process.
Yeah.
So things like persistent login and how all that works. The tables themselves are authenticating similar to a way a user authenticates, but it's unique to its table because we need to have confidence that it's the table it says it is, so that one person can't spoof another person's scores, or and so on and so forth. There's a lot of reasons why we do it that way, but it does make it challenging. So it's not you logged in on the VPN, it's the VPN logged in as the VPN. And so the app is where you log in. I think I'm making sense.
Yeah, you are. And Daphishbowl, I'm really happy to see that Daphishbowl's probably going to do a lot of answering in chat. Jay's going to try and help about answering in verbally.
I'll focus on
about
chat.
Scorbit issues.
I'll try.
Well, it's tough because, so now we're in a situation which I welcome, because that's why I wanted to dedicate the entire stream to just talking about Scorbit and virtual pinball integration, in that everyone has questions, right? You can see everyone's, like Paladin's already like, any thoughts about adding a VPN type filter in the app? And I think these are all great to have. And Jay, I think, just addressed it, right? A lot of things need to get done, and a lot of things will get done, but it has to be all prioritized and made seamless for the user. And I think, I don't work for Scorbit, but I see how these guys work. They want you to have as little friction between playing and enjoying yourself with your friends in pinball and the way it works.
I agree.
You want a frictionless
and Scorbit and Multimorphic, we are talking to those guys. Yeah, I mean, Scorbit and anybody out there we're talking to. The thing about Scorbit also to bear in mind is that app is free. It's not like we have. It doesn't help us to increase friction, right? It's like we think that there's a lot of clever tricks we can do to make it smoother. Our 1.29 release is in beta right now, but the 1.3 release will have a new version of auto claim that you can connect into your VPN, right? And tap into the very first game and say, okay, I'm Manu and it's, I'm playing, and then stick the app in your pocket and forget about it. And it will save every score as long as there's not greater than a certain amount of time between two games when it resets. And that way you don't have to like constantly be claiming the slots for every single game with the app open. Things like that are just, I guess, we're just getting it out. So if you're a React Native developer and you're looking for something to do, we have a giant backlog. All right. What else we got?
Do you think, I know we talked earlier about, what we would kind of say like options for other people to build, right? You talked about the DMDs and all that work of like, hey, here's all the DMDs that are supported. But, one question, I guess, I think people would probably be curious about is just like, do you think you're going to get to a point where, it will kind of turn it over to the community and say like, hey, if anybody wants to add any new DMD tables, here's the tools to do it. If anybody wants to add achievements, here's to do it. Here's the tools 100%. To do it. Because I've gotten a few of those questions in the back. And so I was just like, well, we've talked, but I don't know what's final or not,
Yeah, I mean, there's really two levels of it, right? So if you think about like Color DMD, when they kind of launched their product and Pin2 DMD, and you got folks who are colorizing frames, right? And they crowdsourced all of that. whether it was an open source sort of open community thing or it was closed, like in the case of Color DMD, they went to the community and the community did the work to do that. And I think we want to do the same thing with achievements. What I guess to add some clarity though, specifically when it comes to sort of UGC or user generated content, we want to also have like the master, like if somebody were to adopt, Twilight Zone and create the first release of the master achievements for Twilight Zone, we both want to be able to change that master list from time to time, add achievements from time to time, that are kind of condoned by the community or whatever. But we also want to allow individuals to create achievements that are specifically from the community, that are funny, or they might be specific to a venue or specific to a location or a country or a time or an event. And so our achievement platform lets you do all of those things right now in terms of its structure. And so I think part of it is allowing people to contribute to the master, but part of it is for everyone to have their own custom, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the DOF framework that we use in VPN world is almost that. We can create like a new table and we can submit it and say, here's how all the LEDs and everything work in general. And then users can come in and say, I want to take that and I want to customize it for me, right? And they can, and you can share that out with people, in ways, but there's a master, right? And then everybody else can have branches of it. But theirs are more custom. It'd be nice to have an easier way to share those. But it seems like it fit perfect with kind of your achievements if you did it that way. I know, like, just
and the artwork for it. By the way, pixel art turns out is really hard.
That's why they paid him the big bucks.
I was at Pinball Expo and I was sitting next to the guys who did the pixel art for the new Cactus Canyon remake from Chicago Gaming.
Those guys are amazing.
They're really amazing. A lot of those guys came from the Capcom pinball machines.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so and I was just talking to guys about pixel art, and to them it's like it's straightforward. Like it's hard for them to imagine a world where they don't know how to do pixel art. I try and do a simple 4-shade or 3-shade, badge on a DMD, and it looks so bad. It's just not something I'm skilled at. So we actually partnered with a guy named Olivier Galliez who created Pinball Browser.
Oh yeah.
So
awesome stuff.
It's really, really cool. And for those of you who don't know what Pinball Browser is, for people who own games that are both DMDs and even modern Sterns, he created software that allows you to edit the songs and the videos and the graphics on these games and even burn them back onto the ROMs. But what was great about his work is that his application actually is already capable of, like, you can tell it what palette. This is a White Star game, or this is a SAM game, or this is a WPC game, or a Spike One game, and his DMD frame editor will conform to that palette. And so we've already done it. So the latest version of Pinball Browser can connect to our achievement platform. And if you have a special Scorbit permissions, you can pull down all the achievements into Pinball Browser and then edit frames for every
Nice.
Badge that comes out, which we are very grateful to Olivier for helping us with that. That was wonderful work.
I think you'd be surprised how many people actually know Pinball Browser in this group of in this wretched hive of scum and villainy in here. They're like, oh, we know Pinball Browser.
It is. It's. I mean, Olivier has been amazing, and for those who who know a little bit about like how DMD work. Like if you talk to Freezy and to the folks who have been doing all these extensions, DMDs are complicated, and there's a lot of different ones. And Olivier also helped us with our embedded hardware code that can talk to all these different DMD types, auto detect which one it is, translate the frames so that the Scorbitron has all the frames, which we will, Manu, eventually stream for you. But in the short term, all that work will just speed up VPIN development like crazy.
Nice.
So thanks, Olivier.
Yeah.
So go ahead, the Fishbowl. You were going to say something?
I was just saying, yep. Thanks, Olivier, man. It's a phenomenal piece of software.
Yeah, it's been great. And yeah, I saw somebody mentioning Stern in the chat. We love those guys, and man, I have to say, I've now that I've played Guardians, now that I've seen what is physically possible, my question for you, the Fishbowl, is why not add? I mean, we can add things to it that they just couldn't get around to adding. Like it's a perfect homage, but can we have like the plus version that adds like the extra multi-ball?
Don't worry, there's going to be Jay. There's going to be every achievement that you can get an Insider Connected is going to be on this one plus more, plus more. I've already got like 10 new ones.
Well, I know that Insider Connected has, let's just say they're more confined in terms of what their licensing deals lets them do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and here's the thing about Stern. You guys, awesome. No one's here to crap on anybody. Everyone is in this game for a reason. I think Jay hit the one of the number one things that Stern has to contend with is all this licensing crap, right?
That's really hard. Yeah.
You would not believe how difficult it is. And I'm a small-time video producer. I do post-production. If I screw up a company's logo by 1 pixel, I have to throw it all away and do it over again. Can you imagine dealing with Disney, with Marvel, with these huge companies? So,
yeah, I mean, it's got to be incredibly difficult. Actually, I know it is because our co-founder at Scorbit works for one of those licensors, and not to mention any names, but it's got to be really hard. There is the one thing I love about the vintage games that we work on, sort of the older games, is that those companies don't exist anymore, and the nature of what we do doesn't actually change anything on the games, and we don't reuse.
Who is that?
Do I recognize?
Oh, Mr. Hardluck. Hey, Mr. Hardluck.
I recognize that song.
So again, the nature doesn't change.
It doesn't change, and so like we have all these. I think it allows us to have a really good time with things like achievements and what we do, because it's not like there's going to be a ROM update for Theater of Magic tomorrow that's going to have a bunch of achievements on it, right? And that's up to somebody else to do in the future. Although I would love to see the original pinball game designers. Well, I don't know about all of them, but join in on this. Be able to say, hey, I created that game in 1981. Steve Ritchie, who works for Jersey Jack Pinball, like let's have him do Black Knight 2000 achievements.
Yeah. Well, that would be, oh boy, that'd be interesting. Jay, can you speak really quick about, because I see there's a parallel, I think, between, Fliptronic was asking earlier about multimorphic and, hey, can they use Scorbit? Can you speak a little bit about how it's not just use Scorbit, but there is, I think you already mentioned this a couple times, there's some work to be done on the other side of the fence, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that the answer is, well, first of all, the answer is yes, yes, yes. So what we've done is we've created a cloud service that has a bunch of rules and a bunch of definitions. So when Daphishbowl was doing his work and getting Guardians connected, what we did was we said, okay, this is how you need to speak to the cloud, and this is the identifier you call yourself. And whereas before we had a finite list of machines, so there's already an ID inside of Scorbit for the physical world Guardians. So we needed to create an ID that was specific to the virtual world Guardians because we don't want those leaderboards to be intertwined. And now if you create a home pin or homebrew rather, and it's its original title, of which there is one in the world or two in the world, we need to have that identifier. And then once we've created that identifier for you, and you could just go into our Discord and say, hey, I'm doing this, give me a number. And we'll give you that number. And then it's a question of the software development that you need to do to talk to our cloud service.
Yep.
And I think Daphishbowl, you had the first version of it working really fast, if I recall.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good API. It's pretty easy, clean, and simple. The hardest part is getting your token and working out those UUIDs.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because remember I said every machine has to be unique. That is an issue, and they all have to be connected to the internet, obviously, and they have to have network time, pretty reliable network time. And one of the things that I think we ran into was some of the nuances of Visual Basic and Windows that we created some workarounds, and you danced that dance perfectly. And then now, if you're creating something new, one of the things you have to think about is, well, are there pieces of what Daphishbowl did and what will be done for the ROMs, for VPins, that could be used for both a virtual or physical original title that you're creating, right?
Right.
And we just don't want to have to reinvent the wheel over and over and over again. And so partly that's what we're rushing to do, is to get it to a point where people can just download it and make it go. But I should clarify one thing, which is that, we do have users who have created machines like, a Cyclone that they have a virtual pin for, and they created it in Scorbit and started posting scores, because on the Scorbit app, you don't have to be connected to Scorbit directly, and you can take a photo of your score and then submit that score as an original score for a particular game. And so we have had some folks who I think were a little confused about what VPN integration meant, and suddenly we had 1,000 new titles on there where people were posting scores that, by the way, because the virtual pinball machines look so great, looked like original tables.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna, we do a lot of honor system. Like, one of the nice things about the community is, nobody's gonna cheat, nobody's gonna take the glass off, and no one's gonna take a picture of someone else's score. And if they do, they're gonna get shamed off the platform anyway. But that was just an accident. Eventually we'll get to that point where you'll be able to automatically connect them. But in the meantime, you have to wait for these VPN titles to have Scorbit support before you add them as a virtual pin to the Scorbit app. And and we're moving as fast as we can, because we'll get that ID table out so you can create those and manually submit scores to them within a couple weeks probably from now. And then you'll be able to, oh, look, I got a bunch of Scorbits. Hey, Brian O'Neill.
That's Brian.
There's my Brian. And I just love that. Is that his song?
Yes. Welcome to the stream.
What's Jay's song?
Yeah,
Jay doesn't have
one.
Oh,
Jay, you could.
doesn't
I
have-
need 10,000 points.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough points.
I've been collecting, but I'm not getting any point increases this time.
I'll tell
Sorry,
you
Jay,
what.
It's the point system is the point system.
I
Jay.
have to. No, I have to watch more of your streams. I have to do it. It's got it.
Hey, Fiends. So, speaking to what Jay and Daphishbowl are talking about, this community is basically a train racing down a track that is being built in front of it right now. Okay? And these guys are building the track as fast as they can, but this is the analogy that I can think about. Currently, we have hey Mima.
Great.
So right now, there's a jet and it's flying, and Brian O'Neill is on the outside of the jet, and he's got a paint can, and he's painting the Scorbit logo on the side of the jet as it's flying. That is what is happening right now.
Oh my God, Mima. Okay, so thank you for that, Jay. So what we have right now is we have the first table, visual pinball. Daphishbowl wrote some code that can talk to Scorbit, right? I think Daphishbowl, you can correct me if I'm wrong. There's someone developing some code for future pinball.
Yes, there is a guy who was working on the future pinball, although he hit a snag because they have security in their VB stuff that is blocking some things there. So we're going to have to probably boil that down to a library that gets pulled into future pinball. I'm going to go down that route. So we're looking at that right now.
Top men.
Top men. And on the other, so we got the tribute table, which is like kind of what Pincredibles has been doing. We've got future pinball work. And then the total homebrews, the total original creations, like what Daphishbowl just mentioned was Blood Machines, which is the next table that has Scorbit integration. It's actually being beta right now. And Paladin put up a huge score, and now I got that crap on my phone.
Yeah.
And so...
Did it beat your score?
Yeah, hell yeah. So I think it would behoove all of us to kind of check in on who else is doing some of this work, because you don't want to have to rewrite everything that Daphishbowl wrote, right?
That's right. That's correct.
So that's where, right, the train, the track, and the whole thing. Part of that is why I have this. Yeah.
And what we're going to do is we're going to have to create some user interface around a lot of this, like on Scorbit's tools website, because right now, if you go to tools.scorbit.io, there's a developer section, but the developer section requires that you get a developer token. It then gives you access to the developer documentation, but it was designed around a different use case. It was designed around people creating apps, like to integrate with Twitch so you could send a message to somebody's DMD, that kind of stuff, right? If you're creating something for a VPN, it's kind of like you're a pinball manufacturer. From our perspective, you look exactly the same as Jersey Jack Pinball or as Stern. Well, you look like Jersey Jack Pinball. And as a result of that, like, we have a different set of documentation, but it's really oriented around a physical game, you know, like some of the assumptions we have about things like, you know, what your hardware is doing. And so what we really need to do is we need to create a virtual pin set of documentation. But on the other hand, if we get the major platform, you know, like Future and VPX and VPE and all these different kind of, you know, environments, get the pup pack stuff all squared away. As we do that, what I hope to have happen is that we just don't have to have manufacturers anymore. That now you can then take all of that work and then customize it on a per table basis, or if you roll out a new version. That's what I'd like to get to, so that on the network side, we don't have to keep rewriting. And in fact, the code that's going to run on the ROM-based games to connect to Scorbit is actually being written. Well, there's a couple pieces to it. The Freezy will help with the integration with the DVDs, but Dilshad is going to be writing and moving our code that runs on a Scorbitron. We're going to use that same core code to run on a VPN. So it's going to be pretty slick, but there's a lot of work to do. And Brian's going to do all.
Brian's going to do all of it. Yeah, Brian showed up late, so you're going to do all of it. Daphishbowl, I don't, you know me, I got out of the code business years ago. I don't even want to look at any code. But is it, are these classes and stuff something that for the time being can be put on GitHub so that other people can at least access them?
Yeah, and so I took, I've made a few tweaks since we've had Guardians beta, but I took all the pieces and I zipped them up. I have a little document that I have with it that I was looking for a place to upload. I didn't know if you wanted to upload those to some VPN tool site or we just want to put it on GitHub. Either way, we've got repos, and I could create a repo for you if you like, and if that's the best way, or I can host the files on our tool site, whatever works. It'd be nice to just, because I mean, I version it and everything, and I also have that Python. You remember when I was having the issues? So I have a whole Python class, right, that does A to Z, right? So if somebody wants to do any of this, here's a to Z example you can just download and run and tweak to your heart's content, right? And so I think that'd be good just to get those uploaded. Now we've made most of the tweaks we need to do to this. We found one more the other day when we were integrating blood machines, and so I added that update to the VB code. And so, but yeah, I think it'd be good to just zip those up and post those so people can understand, oh, here's the kit. If I want to integrate it to a homebrew, I'm good. If I want to do a ROM base, that's coming, and so those.
It's kind of like an SDK site, like what we sort of lack. It's like we partly want an SDK, but then we know we do all this work to create the perfectly dialed in SDK, and then we'd be done. And then, because there's not like hundreds of manufacturers, there's only a few. But like, for example, Nick Baldridge for Multimorphic, well, not officially, but he wrote an SDK that allows Multimorphic developers to put those tables onto Scorbit. And he just posted it on Pinside. And we didn't even look at it first. He just posted it on Pinside. I'm sure it works. But like what would be nice about curating it and putting it on a website with all the files is that then when you want to change it and you have an update, you can post the latest version there and that sort of thing. It's a really good idea. And I'm sure Brian will get right on it. I'm saying that because I know he's in the chat listening.
Yeah.
I figure I can assign him tasks without his permission.
I think one of the things, and we're going to be wrapping up soon. I think one of the things that should be a takeaway from this conversation, though, is that some people kind of understood that it's a lot of work, and it's not just like a plug and go, and Scorbit doesn't need to know anything about it kind of thing. It's not that. It's more of a Scorbit is not going to is going to try not to give you a lot of friction to do it, but there has to be a handshake on both sides, because clearly you guys know that this Guardians table has, and it doesn't have to do with versions. It has to do with the fact that this Guardians table exists and has an ID over the fence in Scorbit. And for Scorbit to understand what's going on, it has to match the ID of this table to their ID. Therefore, it's not as simple as, well, since one happens, they all happen, right?
Yeah.
So this conversation is a little about having a little about clarity about that, and
it's important to understand the reason why that is true is because Scorbit is a live platform. It's not just a leaderboard. There are other leaderboards out there that you could use to post scores and high scores that people share and visualize. Scorbit is actually live, closer, more akin to, an MMO or a mobile game with multiple players at the same time, in that the Scorbit is aware of your specific table's state at any point. And so we have folks playing in Australia and we have folks in Germany who are watching those live games as the scores are increasing and triggering events based on that kind of thing. So it's a live platform. And because of that, every table has to be unique in our universe and be identifiable and addressable. And that's a huge piece. Not to mention the fact that when you start getting into tournaments, which we do, and we totally, the folks like Match Play and Never Drains are integrated with Scorbit, it's really important that we take security seriously and identity seriously and be trusted. And so that's part of the whole way that it works. Sorry, it's more complicated, but also it's free. So that important safety tip, this is also free. And so we have to kind of control the data as it's coming in. We don't get overwhelmed. And our visualizations on Scorbit Vision work perfectly for the VPins as well. Yes, indeed. There it is. That's a live Scorbit Vision view of Guardians, which
it's super live. I picked it up on Ball too. So
yeah. I mean, and it allows anyone in the world to be visualizing that at the same time, which is not trivial. And so that's some fun stuff. The leaderboards are also something you can do. You can put them in your game room. You could unify all of your stuff onto single leaderboards and scoreboards.
The coolest thing I've seen so far when I was at, this is going to sound presumptuous, but I'm sorry, when I was at Scott Denise's house. I'm sorry, I was at Scott Denise's house. I'm sorry. He had just hanging out. He had a screen with all his Scorbit games. Boom. And it was just like, whoa, that's freaking baller. That was cool. And it's not hard to do that stuff.
No, Scorbit Vision is sv.scorbit.io. Anyone who has a Scorbit account, which is a free account.
True Astro.
There.
Yeah.
And create stuff. I just fixed it too, so that makes me even more likely to plug it.
Nice.
Let's just see. Yeah, Astro's right. Who hasn't been to Scott Denise's house? It's not a big deal.
I haven't.
I haven't.
I guess we're just doing us. Scott.
So, I guess it's no surprise the next table that is in development right now is Blood Machines. Once again, that's going to be live. I don't think there's no other table that deserves to be on Scorbit Blood Machines. That is going to be a bloodbath to get to a good score on a leaderboard on that one. I'm scared. Do not send me a challenge on Blood Machines because I will run away. Is there anything?
Shout out to Aki for that work, man. He's been working hard on that, and I've been trying to. I've helping him a little bit here and there, but they don't have pub, so he's had to work around getting a QR code, and he's done some cool work. So yeah. That's some serious. It's we throw some complications. All those shortcuts you took to make things work faster, we completely destroy. Yeah. But it's cool. They found a way. So
that's great. I want to get one of these cabinets. I don't know if I have quite the skills that Manu has to assemble a V pin myself completely.
Had
Did you or did you not build that table yourself?
I built it myself, but this was a long time ago, Jay. This was more than 10 years ago.
You
And
just
then when
get
I
Marty
needed
to
to,
build you one.
yeah, when I needed some upgrades, I had to talk to Game Club Central, and really smart people like Paladin and who's the guy that makes my lock bar light? The French dude.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
forgot.
God! Somebody help me in chat. Who's a wonderful French? Arnaz.
Arnos. There you go. There you go.
Arnaz, please go to Arnaz and buy his stuff. So yeah, but all right. Is there anything else? Because I do have to shut it down. Thank you guys so much for both of you being here.
Sure.
His stuff actually sucks.
Let's just do another plug. Earlier in the chat, Flipstream posted our Discord for Scorbit. On the Scorbit Discord, we have a virtual pin developer channel where folks like Daphishbowl and others are hanging out from time to time if you're lucky. And if you have questions, if you want to integrate your own, if you want to contribute to the project, please go on there and check it out. And I think honestly, the best way to move these things faster is for everyone to work together on it and get this thing out the door. And we are committed at Scorbit on the virtual pin universe. What am I? I'm like trying to figure out what. There it is, the Scorbit logo.
You don't even remember. Connected to the future virtual pinball. We rehearsed this, Jay. Oh my God.
I feel like it was the time was about to happen. With Scorbit, you are connecting future and the past of pinball.
Now we have to start all over again.
Cue cards.
Okay,
Cue
okay,
cards.
take two.
Take two.
All right. Welcome. No, we're not doing that again. I have to take my almost done with COVID butt back to the bedroom and go to sleep. Thank you guys. Thank you, Jay Adelson of Scorbit. Thank you, Brian O'Neill, for jumping in the chat. Thank you to Fishbowl for just. Thank you, Ron Richards. Thank you to Fishbowl. Rehearsal accomplished. Thank you to Fishbowl for the endless amounts of patience with me and mostly me
There's a lot of patience for Scorbit too.
It's all good. It's all good. Just code.
Just code. Oh, can somebody in chat please make a T-shirt that's like the Fishbowl's like Guardians of like Quill saying it's just code. Please, it's just code, baby. What's up, Il Robinson? That's my buddy. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'm gonna let you guys go and make sure you've seen that link in Discord to the Scorbit Discord. Thank you once again, and I will see you guys probably maybe Thursday or maybe not. It will be Thanksgiving. I think I'm going to take the day off.